Alright, so we're gonna start ranking some popular art. Some of these are my favorites, and some of these are art that I'm just learning about today. We haven't all been tried and true Goya fans. We're not all Goya fans like Mr. Human Robot. See, I totally nailed that. Okay, so let's see what we're gonna start with. Let's take a look. Okay, here we go. Check this one out. This painting is by Rothko. This is number 61. It's called Rust and Blue. It was painted in 1953. Rothko's color-filled paintings focus on emotional connection through large blocks of color. So like he was kind of like breaking paintings down to the essence. Like if I put a red next to a blue, how does that make me feel? If I put a black color next to a gray, how does that make me feel? And it was less about trying to portray a subject, and it was more about just kind of giving the audience color swatches and letting emotions drive that. If you think of, for example, the colors of a Valentine's Day card or the color of Valentine's, there's a painting by Rothko that used that particular color palette that Valentine's Day has now co-opted. So those colors that we think of as love, the pink, the reds, I'm not sure we would think that is, look, I'm off screen over here, that pink, that red, the colors that symbolize love and Valentine's Day. I'm not sure that we would be conditioned to see those colors as Valentine's colors if it weren't for Rothko's paintings, his studies of colors. Rothko wanted viewers to stand just a few feet away to be fully immersed in the experience of the color. So he would say, as you're looking at these paintings, they're pretty large paintings. They're probably like 4 or 6 feet tall, but Rothko had described you standing close enough so that the painting would fill your field of vision, including your peripherals. Somebody also said once that Rothko was really just being an asshole, and people were talking to him, asking him how to best way to look at his paintings, and his response was to go look at them really close, and it was kind of a way to just get them to get away from him. Rothko rejected labels like abstract painter and insisted his work was about evoking emotion and it wasn't about the form. That's a little bit about what we talked about. I remember seeing the studies of Rothko when he really nailed down his style. And the first painting of the series was a painting of the living room that he grew up in and his mother, and she was sitting in a chair. And then he would take that image and he would stretch it out and he would paint a little less. So now it was just the room and the chair, but his mother wasn't there anymore. But then he would just paint just the room, but there was no chair there any longer. But then he stopped painting the room and he just painted the colors of the room. He just painted the colors of his mother, the chair, and the room all in a painting to forget the subject and just evoke the same emotional feeling he had standing in his living room, reduced down to just the most minimalist features. I think that's a pretty cool concept. Before this, most people were just drawing. They were just drawing pictures. They were focused on subject. And I like the way that Rothko took his focus away from subjectivity and moved it all into color and emotion. I think because I love this painting, I really love Rothko. He's been a real big influence on me as an artist. I'm gonna put him in the A tier. I think his work is great, but the technique, it's always one of those kind of artworks where everybody says, I could do that. But the thing is that Rothko did it and interjected it into culture before anyone else has done it. Things always look easy in hindsight. Okay, A tier. All right, guys, how was that? Did y'all like? How did I rank that bad boy? Do you like Rothko? Do you like this painting? Do you think the A-list is a good level to put it? Is a good tier level for that bad boy? Next up, well, thank you. Do you like Rothko? Do you like this painting? Would you put him in A tier? I think the discussion surrounding how hard it was to restore the artwork was interesting. maybe for me. You're talking about Rothko's art was really hard to restore? Is that what you're saying, Human Robot? Although my
Restoring Rothko's paintings has proven uniquely challenging due to his fragile technique and material choices. 1. Layering and delicacy. Rothko used thin, translucent layers of oil paint on unprimed canvas, which makes his work extremely sensitive to light, humidity, and touch. Unlike thicker, varnished paintings, any attempt at traditional restoration risks damaging the original surface. 2. Fading colors. The Harvard murals 1962 are a prime example. Rothko used a pigment called lithol red, which is highly light sensitive. Over time, the vibrant crimson background faded dramatically, leaving restorers unable to repair it through traditional means. Instead, scientists developed a digital light projection technique to restore the colors visually without physically altering the work. 3. Vandalism and modern challenges. Rothko's Black on Maroon, 1958, at Tate Modern was vandalized in 2012 with black ink. Restoration required 18 months of careful chemical testing and precision because Rothko's layered paint surface was so delicate that most solvents could have worsened the damage. Rothko's focus on emotional experience rather than durability has made restoration a high-stakes process where modern technology and innovation are often required to preserve his legacy.
That's pretty interesting. So what do you think about that? Is it okay if I call to my phone to get some kind of extra answers like that? Is that interesting? Did y'all like that? Also, if you're just joining us, we're ranking art. I would love for you to follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow the Instagram, and join in the chat. Human Robot, is that the some of the stuff you were talking about? All right. So, this next painting that we're going to take a look at is called I and the Village by Marc Chagall. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce his name. Marc Chagall. This is a fun one. Jesus. This horse face. Dude, this horse face looks like something that we all drew when we were in first grade or something. Oh, and the eye contact between this horse and this guy is hilarious. Oh, and I don't, the colors, God, the colors are so bad. I mean, it's all opinion, but man, this combination of prime colors, well, there's some green in there, it's a lot. It's a lot. This painting is painted in 1911. It's called I in the Village by Marc Chagall. It's a dreamlike depiction of Chagall's Russian Jewish village life, blending fantasy and Cubist elements. Chagall often included floating figures and animals inspired by his memories and imagination. Chagall's unique style didn't fit neatly into Cubism or surrealism, which frustrated his critics. Very interesting. Yeah, because I could see how this is kind of surrealist. It's kind of cubist. I see elements of Dali style here. I see elements of Picasso style here. But would I hang this on my wall? Hell no. Hell no. D tier. I'm putting this in the bottom. I'm sorry. I hate to... You should not rank art. Ranking art is a bad idea. All these pieces of art are wonderful. All art is wonderful for its own specific, unique reasons. With that said, this one's going in the D tier. What do you think? What did you think, y'all? D tier? Was I wrong? Is that wrong for that? Yeah, that one hurts your brain. Yeah, it hurts my brain. It hurts my eyes. What do you think, man? Man's like, no, that's not a good one. Yeah, that one's not too good. But I gotta be honest. In 1911, that painting probably blew people's minds. They probably never seen things like that, you know? Nowadays, we see wild stuff like that all the time. But 1911, probably never seen anything. All right, so this one here, this is one of my favorite pieces of all time. I just love this piece right here. And I know that might seem maybe a little trite or a little expected, but man, this Matisse piece is just gorgeous. The Blue Nude number 2, painted in 1952. Matisse's cutout techniques use bold, flowing shapes to create harmony and simplicity. Matisse developed this style late in his life after his illness left him unable to paint traditionally. Critics at first rejected Matisse's cutouts, but they became some of the most celebrated works. So I thought that was something beautiful about this, is Matisse's hands didn't work well. So this Matisse piece, this cutout, when he was getting older and he was ill in his bed, this particular piece is a cutout of paper. He would paint paper a solid blue color, and then he had a big pair of fabric shears, and he would cut the paper into these shapes. He wasn't able to hold a paintbrush, and but he was able to use these big fashion shears. These big fashion shears, they have big handles. They're a little bigger than this, but Matisse would use these scissors. He was able to cut construction paper, but he wasn't able to paint anymore. And I just think it's beautiful that even when this man couldn't walk, he couldn't get out of bed, he couldn't hold a paintbrush, but he was still finding a way to create art, even if it was just cutting pieces of construction paper and laying them down in these shapes. And it's amazing because I think some of these are the most beautiful images ever created. They're so simple. They're just two colors, white and blue. I love this painting or this piece, you know. And it when people see these, I think everybody just assumes that it's paint. You know, the fact that it's paper cut out and paste on another sheet of paper because he was unable to get out of bed and use his hands and use paintbrushes. I love the story, I love the philosophy, and at the end of the day, I love the image. I think it's a beautiful image. I think it's a beautiful color blue, and it's just wonderfully composed. I love this image. S tier. S tier. We did it, y'all. We did it. We got our first S tier. We did it. Whoop whoop. What do you think? You think it deserves to be S tier? Not only that, I love a lot of Matisse's stuff. There's a Picasso tattoo on the back of my elbow. Anyway, the Matisse is on my knee. I get confused. All right. This next one is the Maryland Diptych, I think is what this one's called. This is another one of the Aaron. This is another Andy Warhol. Let me find my notes. Let's find some history on this bad boy. I do like this Marilyn Monroe diptych. It was painted in 1962. Warhol captured Marilyn Monroe's image repeatedly, commenting on celebrity culture and consumerism. Warhol used screen printing to create repetition, mimicking mass production. Created shortly after Marilyn Monroe's death, it symbolizes both her immortality and her fragility. You know, thinking about the fact that he did interject this into pop culture, like soon after she died, is really interesting. Yeah, that is an interesting idea, human robot. We'll have a whole episode about tattoos. I think that would be a great idea. You know, the fact that this painting was done like soon after Marilyn Monroe's death, and he was a famous artist, and he took this picture and he took an image of someone who was recently passed away and screen printed it over and over and over and interjected that into culture. It's kind of interesting. We just look at it now, you just see pictures of Marilyn Monroe because we see pictures of Marilyn Monroe everywhere. But to think about the fact that Andy Warhol did these prints, did these paintings in like memory of her. And part of the philosophy was when you use a screen print to make a t-shirt, that screen print doesn't last forever. So if, let's say I want to print 1,000 t-shirts, you make a screen and then you pull it. But every time you print a t-shirt, that screen you're using, the quality degrades more and more and more and more and more until it's unusable, and then they have to burn a whole new screen. So if you look at this Marilyn Monroe print, when the images start to degrade where you can't see them anymore and it starts to fall apart and it starts to be bad quality, that's because the screen print that's because the screen that he's pulling the ink from is falling apart over time. I think that's so very interesting, and he was using that in a way to make a dialogue about how art degrades over time, and this print was degrading over time, much like Marilyn Monroe had passed away, so she had in a way degraded over time until she passed away, in a way that, you know, art is fleeting like life is fleeting. And, you know, the fact that, you know, this image is kind of a larger philosophy of that. So this Marilyn Monroe, let's put this bad boy, I don't love the technique. I do like how it's in memory of Marilyn Monroe. Let's go A tier. I'm putting this in the A tier. I would hang this on my wall. A tier. Again, ranking art is a bad idea, so all art is beautiful for its own unique reasons. I need to take a second to ask you to go down and check out the links below. I'd appreciate it if you could check out some of my other artwork, links to my music on Spotify, or even go watch a feature film that I've directed. They're streaming on Amazon Prime and on TUBI. All the links are below. Thanks so much for your time. Let's get back into the video. Alright, this next painting is another one of my favorites. This is Basquiat. Let me find my notes here. This is an untitled skull, painted in 1981. Now we're getting into like some modern art, you know. Basquiat's bold, neo-expressionist style tackled identity, race, and mortality with a raw urban edge. Man, I really love this painting. Skull motif reflects his fascination with life and death, influenced by his Puerto Rican Haitian heritage. Basquiat's friendship and rivalry with Andy Warhol fueled his fame. Yeah, I just really love this painting. I love, that Basquiat. All right, back to Basquiat. I like that Andy Warhol, even though he did have a rivalry with Basquiat, I do think he did go out of his way to help cater an audience for Basquiat and with Basquiat. I appreciate that Andy Warhol did a lot for the queer and gay community, and that even though they weren't as loud and proud as some people are today, Basquiat and Andy Warhol are both very big icons in the queer community, and Basquiat is also a queer icon in the people of color community. And I think it's really amazing that these images were able to get through the noise, get through the drama, and really find a place in our pop culture till we're doing rankings of Basquiat and Andy Warhol's work in 2024 on stream. A lot of these cultures, they didn't exist. They weren't allowed to exist, much less did we get to point a spotlight at them and really appreciate some of the art and the culture that comes from these under-respected communities. I think this painting goes in S tier. I think this is one of my favorite paintings. I would hang this on my wall. I think I would tattoo this on my arm if there was a way to do it. I love the message behind it. I love Basquiat's style in general, his aesthetic, the way he dresses, and how that's reflected in this painting. S tier, baby. We got our second S tier. We did it. We got there. What do you think, man? Basquiat for the S tier, baby. Okay, this one goes out to my man, Human Robot, in the chat. This is a Goya painting. Let me find my notes here. Fun fact about this painting, Human Robot in our chat used this as inspiration on one of his beautiful pieces of work that he shared with us. I always interact with the Twitch, or they get bored, move on. But it's cool to cut that out for YouTube. That's funny. I'm glad that you love this painting. And Human Robot also said that he loved this painting too. Is the reason I ended up putting it in the tier list here. At first, I wasn't going to put it in the tier list. It's kind of heavy imagery, and I wasn't sure that other people really appreciated this particular style. This painting is called The 3rd of May, 1808 by Francisco Goya. It was painted in 1814. Is that a link to the work you did, Human Robot, that references this work? I'll go back to it at the end of the chat here. This was painted in 1814. It's a brutal and emotional depiction of the execution of a Spanish rebel by the Napoleon army. Goya's work was groundbreaking for its raw realism and inspired later war artists like Picasso's Guernica. It's so much, it looks like a Picasso painting, but I guess Picasso's painting is based on this. You know, the way that the anatomy looks very much like a Picasso painting. And also, if you look at this painting in an abstract fashion, if you break this painting down, it could, in its balance and its breakdown and its use of lines, feel very similar to Picasso's Guernica. I mean, the way these shapes of the men on the ground, the hands up, the rifles, the only thing we don't see is depictions of horses, but this really is an amazing painting. To me, it feels like almost like a Quentin Tarantino film, or when it came out, or some kind of raw film where it's like, hey, we don't usually see depictions of this in this fashion. We don't usually point a camera directly at these kinds of events. We don't usually point a painting, a subject matter directly at these types of events. And it does make art heavy, you know what I mean? This is not just a pretty painting. This is not just some colors that make you feel emotions. This is a mirror held up to humanity. You know, we are on both sides of this painting. You know, we are humans, and we are the killers, and we are the ones getting killed. We are the predator, and we are the prey. You know, and it's amazing that all this is pigment spread on a canvas. And just looking at it and talking about it, I'm moved by it. I'm moved by the circumstance. And, you know, to think that this is the circumstance that this artist was living through, and he still had time to paint. He still had time to paint this picture. I mean, I complain about traffic on the way to get a cup of coffee and how I'm going to get to my meeting and how am I going to have enough time to get through work. But could you imagine living under these type of circumstances and still finding the grace to sit down and paint, and to paint an image like this? Tier. I would not hang this on my wall, I don't think. But I'd be dumb not to put a painting that moves me anywhere but S tier. Thank you, chat, for encouraging me to put that one in here. S tier. Okay, y'all. I want to go to the chat here. Human Robot in the chat sent us a piece of artwork that he did that was based on that Goya painting, and it was the reason that I decided to put it in here. Let's see. Fifi Chan says, I love gory yet meaningful paintings. One of my all-time faves is Ivan the Terrible and his son Ivan, because there's so much emotion and the story makes you have some feelings. Fifi Chan, I couldn't agree with you more. That painting is one of the most amazing paintings. I'm not sure if you're subscribed to the Inspiragio YouTube channel, but they did a recent breakdown on that painting, and it's also very moving. I agree with you 100%. It is amazing when you do see some kind of gore in art, because the juxtaposition of the finesse of fine art and the gore that it depicts is just a really bittersweet combination. It was featured in the series Chernobyl. Ivan the Terrible and his son Ivan was featured in the series Chernobyl. That's pretty cool. That was a great series, by the way. Fifi Chan says, I will find a way to have that tattooed on me. Ooh, that's a heavy one. That's a heavy one. Maybe we'll tier list that one in the next one. Okay, so I am taking this image from the chat that Human Robot gave us. And he was saying that he was loosely inspired by Goya's painting, and that if we looked hard enough in the background of his painting, that we could see a depiction of the Goya painting. I see it. So if you look, this is the drawing from Human Robot in the chat, and if you look and he said it's part of the painting was loosely inspired. I can see it right here in the back. Right here, is this what you mean, Human Robot? This standoff and the guns back here, where we have a firing line, and the man here with his hands up, and he's seeing this out the window. So almost in the way you've painted this, then this man here, is he Goya? You know, is this Goya seeing the firing squad out of his window and painting it? Man, it's nice having y'all in the chat. Human Robot, this work is really beautiful. The fact that you've shared it with me, I know it's not. I love how it ties perfectly into our story. Like seeing that this artist here is like he's living in real life and he's looking out his window and he's seeing the firing line and he's seeing people die and he's still finding the time to paint. And not only that, but if we look deeper into this painting here, Human Robot, I'm not sure what you're depicting, but I see a man here who's entered his house with a rifle, you know? Is our painter gonna be the next person to get shot down? You know, and he's spending the last moments of his life doing what he loves, painting. You know, I feel like this is really relevant to what's going on with the Goya painting. I appreciate you sharing this. S tier, Human Robot's painting. S tier. I'm putting it in the S tier. All right, guys, I think I'm gonna do one more painting. And then we're going to call it for the evening. We'll do a little palette cleanser here. I know we got serious there. Boom. Look at these guys. Look at these guys. I don't know why, but I like this one. The Arnolfini painting. Portrait. The Arnolfini portrait, I think is what it's called. Let me find my notes here on this bad boy. Have y'all seen this picture before? Okay, we'll go back here and we're gonna pull Human Robots down because he's right. I will repeat, ranking art is a terrible idea. All art is important for its own unique reasons. Now, let's get back to ranking this art. The Arnolfini portrait. Dude, this looks like an Arnolfini portrait. The mirror in the back is so odd. Let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at that. What is going on back there? Look at that. We can see what's going on behind them. So that means we must be seeing the artist here painting them in the mirror behind them. Human Robot says, I like the mirror part. It reminds me of MC Escher. Of course you would like that. Your work is very similar to MC Escher. And the scene in Blade Runner, yeah, it does. It looks like both of those. Good point. Very cool. Good eye, guys. And look, there must be a Stations of the Cross here around the mirror. I didn't notice with the other stations, but I do see that this must be the crucifixion. Very cool. Thanks, chat, for noticing that. Ooh, where did it bring that bad boy back in here? This dog has got to be one of the best parts. Very seldomly do we get such a beautiful floof like this. To get such a cute puppy in fine art, we don't always get such a wonderful depiction. And these flops, these look like some kind of crazy Balenciaga or Yeezy something. These flops look so very uncomfortable. That puppy's awesome. Is she pregnant? She looks like she's pregnant here. And these, look at these legs. Look at your boy's skinny little ankles here. Is he wearing Balenciaga socks? And neither one of them looks happy to be here. Neither one of them looks happy to be here. This painting was painted in 1434. Good Lord, think about how long ago that was. It's like 500, 600 years ago. It's known for its incredible detail, symbolism, and mastery of oil painting. It was revolutionary in its time. I bet so. It looks so detailed, so sharp, and like the deep focus where you can see that everything's in focus from the puppy to the painting and background. And that's, your eyes don't do that. Your eyes aren't deep focused like that. So to look at a painting that's like that had to blow people's minds in the 1400s, man. They probably thought it was magical. The convex mirror in the background reflects Van Eyck himself, acting like a 15th century Easter egg. I like this painting. I'm not sure I would hang it on my wall. I love the technique. These subjects are hilarious. These two guys, this painting makes me smile. I really like this painting. I can't say it's S tier, but I can put it in B tier. I think this is a B tier. I mean, that's A tier. I'm sorry. I can put it in A tier. This is an A tier painting. Boom. I know we got a lot of S tier and A tier paintings, but man, I love paintings. I think paintings are awesome. And I think that's the last one of our tier list. Let's take a look at the chat. Yeah, the puppy, man. In the chat, Fifi says, we need to have a whole stream where we rank old paintings of animals. Some look so goofy. Oh, you're so right. They didn't know animal anatomy back then. That's a great idea. We should put that in our Discord. I like the cat painting where they're tilling the fields. That is a good one. That's a good one. Not like modern cats. What a bunch of degenerates, Human Robot says. You're so right. My cat has not tilled a field in his life. Half the time he's just sleeping on the recliner. You know, I kind of like the dogs playing poker too, and I haven't seen a dog play poker in a while. Here we go. This is what Human Robot just linked us in the chat. Cats in the Middle Ages, hardworking, went to church, walked on hind legs, contributed to society. Cats now, lazy and ungrateful atheists, too lazy to walk on hind legs. Oh my goodness, that's a fun one. We should do an episode of just art memes. I think that would be fun. Oh, that's cool. Human Robot says, my O-level art project was inspired by the dogs playing poker. That's hilarious. That's so cool. Human Robot, you have such fun knowledge on art and wonderful opinions and talent. It's nice to have you in the chat. I appreciate you sticking around.